Hi, and welcome to the Do Something Indie Show. It is, yes, 8 o'clock on Wednesday, and I know you're probably jonesing because we didn't have a show last Wednesday because we had the Mayor's Forum down at the Art Center, and we had the Libertarian candidate, Mark Rentholdberger, sort of hard to say, and an unnamed opponent that I won't mention because he refused any requests to be there. Maybe next time for this guy. But tonight, I got a special guest. This is actually a sitting senator who's running again for office that I had the privilege of interviewing. We met up at the Starbucks on 71st and Binford and had quite an interesting conversation. And I really like this guy. He's a good hard worker. He's an ex-businessman that got into politics, a little bit like myself. And hopefully we'll both win and we'll serve together come this January. So let's get to this pre-recorded interview that I did a couple days ago and see what John has to say. Hi, this is John Schmitz for the Do Something Indie Show, and I have yet another special guest. I have State Senator John Ruckleshaus with me today, and it's we go way back. Way back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you where his district is, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, John, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. It's great to be out on a beautiful day right now,
yeah,
right?
Nice.
Nice. It's kind of cool. We've been out actually going door to door, knocking on doors since June, and we've had a lot of 90-degree days. So take a day like today, and we're still going out and going door to door after this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, basically my district begins, it spiders down to the Butler-Tarkington area. 52nd Street is sort of on the southern line. Binford Boulevard, where we are right now, is somewhat the eastern line, even though it does spider out to the east a little bit. And it goes all the way up to 116th Street, all the way over to the Greek Orthodox Church, and then goes all the way back down to just the very tip of Butler University.
Oh, okay. And since you just listed all that, what do you think about how the districts are drawn? I mean, I have the same explanation for my district in the House, and it's
right.
It's crazy how. Wait, is that somebody's house that wanted to get included, or how did they do this? I mean, and we have that coming up, right? We have a redistricting coming up.
Yeah, it's called the redistricting process. So basically, the districts that we're running in right now were all drawn 10 years ago, or actually 9 years to be exact. And what they have to do, there are certain parameters and guidelines that they have to follow. Mainly the Supreme Court has set those out. But basically, they must be within communities of interest. So, for example, we're basically Marion County and Hamilton County. And so a lot of my district is very similar communities of interest, if you will. So in other words, my district just couldn't be drawn from 52nd Street all the way up to Kokomo in a pencil or something like that. No, it has to be pretty compact, if you will, as not square, but as compact as humanly possible based upon population. So think about this, that there is a map of the state of Indiana, and the map makers, what their job and responsibility is, in the Senate, there are 50 seats, and there are 6.7 million Hoosiers. So take 6.7 million divided by 50. I went to IU. They didn't teach math there, John. So I think it's about 140,000 persons per. And then you in the House would be 6.7 million divided by so about 70,000 roughly. Yeah. Now the interesting thing, conversely, with some of these districts is that growth occurs. So, for example, just north of mine, where Senator Victoria Spartz, who's now running for Congress, resides, she's had a lot of growth. So she has a lot of population in her district right now. Okay, so she's overpopulated. Mine is a relatively mature district, right? Not too much growth. Yeah. Probably the same thing for you?
Yeah, it is the same. And, you know, so basically the redistricting comes after the census, correct? So
correct.
Next year will be if you stay in and I get in,
right,
we'll be talking about that stuff.
Right.
And that's one of the things I appreciate about John is that I don't consider you so much a party person.
Right.
You know, and one of the stories I'm going to tell is I was at an event and you know, and I was running for mayor and stuff, and there might have been some establishment people that may not have looked so, you know, kindly upon me. and John didn't care about that. He went ahead and he told a story about how he used to sell me lumber back in the 90s. And you know my work from the South Side, and hopefully I've had good integrity in my work, and I think that's how it is. But you told that story, and these are some of the things that I reflect on of how people are. And that's why I wanted to do an interview with you, because I know you're a guy that is doing this for the right reasons. Right. You're going to do it the best way it can be done. Right. And you're a hard worker.
Well, thank you.
So let's go on this door knocking thing. So I'm doing this too, putting the door hangers and all that. I love doing it, and I know you do too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the hardest part is getting started.
Right.
So let's walk us through what your district is. I want to have a good, bad, and an ugly story, like Clint Eastwood. You know, I want to have a good, a bad, and an ugly story. If you can think of any of those in that area, because I got some funny ones. I mean, if you follow my Facebook Live, I mean, I seem to get into some pretty interesting situations when I'm doing a live. So, but you got any stories about, you know, just anything that would be randomly interesting about door knocking?
Before we get going, I got to tell you, John, I love selling you lumber back in the day, and I always remember you because you paid your bill. And as a business guy, you always remember the guys that paid their bills. So no, you were a great businessman. You still are a great businessman. Always do business with you, no question about it. So yeah, that to me is the most fun part of the job. I've been doing this since we got started in 2016. So in 2016, we knocked on literally 15,000 doors. And this year, we've already knocked, this is the middle of September, we've knocked almost on 10,000 doors already. I'll change into my uniform here shortly and go out till dark tonight. We're out every day, Monday through Sunday. And it is the most fun part of it. So let me tell you a couple of stories, are the good, the bad, the ugly. So one of them happened actually in 2016. So I represent a district that it's a very moderate district, and the facts are that the president, Donald Trump, lost my district by 19 points in 2016. So it's, you know, it's a typical suburban district in America. They don't necessarily like the president, but they ticket split, and they like to know their representatives, and they like to know them very well, and like to make sure they're going to work for you. So I knocked on a door. I actually walked, it was a Saturday morning about 10 a.m. This is 2016. A guy was out there, and he had a beer, Sierra Nevada. I remember that like it was yesterday. Just sitting there at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, had a cigarette tucked behind his ear. John, you know those guys in the construction industry,
I
right?
might be one of those guys.
You might be one of those guys. Great guy. His wife's a teacher. Knocked on his door. He came out. We talked to him, and he put his chest up there, and he goes, "Ruckleshaus." He said, "What flavor Republican are you?" And I thought that was a great question to ask. And I looked at him, I said, "I'm a Luger Republican." He looked at me, his eyes got real big, flipped a cigarette, lit it up. "You want a beer?"
Oh, I could say it's a similar story to that when I was out getting signatures and I was down in Lockerbie. See, I didn't know these areas and what's Democrat or not. And there was a guy that was up on his porch. He had a glass of wine on his little thing there, and the door opened, the music's blaring. I'm thinking, man, this guy's pretty cool. I get about one step up his step, and he says, "What do you want?" I said, "I want you to sign me." "Get out of here. I'm a Democrat. Get out of here." I'm like, okay. So but there's those times. I don't know if that's a bad or an ugly, but it was just very interesting. Some of the folks you run into.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up about, because we don't care what party you are. We literally do not care what party you are. As a matter of fact, some of the best conversations I've ever had were people that were completely the opposite party, completely the opposite ideology. You always learn something from every conversation. So literally when we go up to people, a lot of times they always say, "Hey, what party are you?" Right? They always like to lead with that. And I always look at them and say, "I'm a member of any party that you invite me to."
Yeah, and I that's a great answer. And it just does seem like I run into that on both sides. I'm always glad when they say Republican, but when they, but I have a Democrat friend that tells me that, you keep doing good things, it's hard not to like you. I think that's about the best compliment you're going to get sometimes.
Well, that's right, John, because one of the things that's lost upon us a lot of times is people get so wrapped up in party, and political parties today are very weak compared to what they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. They really are. People, the voting populace is very smart. They're smarter. They have so much information at their fingertips. They do a lot of research on you before you even get to the door. and they know a lot about you, which is great. So people are more people are determining themselves or labeling themselves as independents,
Yeah.
which is okay. Now that may mean they swing one way or the other, right? But again, it's less about party and it's more about what you are going to do, what you stand for on the particular issues of the day.
Yeah, and now how long have you actually been in the Senate?
So I just finishing up my first term.
Okay.
So I was first elected in 2016, came to the Senate, and just finishing up the first term. So this is going for my second term.
So yeah, and I really hope you're there because I know you're somebody that I can work with, and I can you're a type of guy like me. It's like, what's that? O positive blood. You can donor to everybody. You know, we get along with everybody.
Right.
You know, my philosophy is, hey, if you'll have me as a friend, I'll be your friend.
Right.
So, you know, talk to us about what your you know, basically a job description, and then I'm going to ask you why you got into this mess.
Yeah.
And maybe you could ask me the same question.
Oh,
because I think it's going to be very similar. I may just have to say, yeah, what he said. But
Exactly,
let's go with
exactly.
let's go job description. What?
So a job description for a state senator right now or serving in the legislature is, A, you've got to have a servant's heart. And if you don't have a servant's heart, don't get into the business. Because what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to look at every constituent. And as a matter of fact, back to the door-to-door, there are some that are pretty hardcore, and they're going to tell you they're not going to vote for you. And I always look at those folks and say, that's okay. I respect that. We are going to win, and we're going to work with you. And literally that's what we do. And that's the mindset that you have to have, because you have to be able to go forward once the election's over. And that's a great peaceful revolution this country has every 4 years or 2 years, depending on how long the office is, right? And you got to be able to go to bat for your constituents, whether they have an unemployment issue or they're having trouble with a certain agency, or they frankly just don't understand, well, I heard that you cut education. Not true. Or I heard this, or I heard that. And one of the greatest things that we do is kind of set the record straight. And then secondly, get input from your constituents. You know, what do you want? What do you think the course of education should be? What should be the course of workforce development, of energy policy? Pick an issue, right?
There's enough of them in there,
Yeah.
and they all seem to need a little TLC.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing that I do is with my current House representatives, which are both Democrat, Representative Ed Delaney and Representative Kerry Hamilton, we have what's called bicameral, which means House and Senate, and obviously Republican and Democrat town halls. So during the course of the legislative session, we'll have one pre-session, and then we'll have one during the session. Those sometimes get up to 300 people to them. We get huge crowds. And it's not about us extolling our virtues or our ideology on the constituents. A lot of it is about educating them on the issues, and then what's on their mind. You know, what do they want to see? Because one of the things that we did was most powerful. Remember that one school shooting that we had really tragically?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Up in Noblesville. It was
yep.
just very tragic. Well, I got with Representative Delaney and I got with Representative Hamilton right before that town hall. 250 people in the audience. And people were just visibly upset. They were concerned. And I said, you know what, guys, let's do this. Instead of us standing up there and articulating positions on this and that, let's just pass the microphone around. Let's hear the constituents. So literally for an hour, we just passed the microphone around, and everybody got a chance that wanted to could talk. And they felt empowered. And I felt empowered. I mean, I learned a lot that night.
Yeah, and I really, that's, you know, letting the people have the voice.
Right.
And we're supposed to be that megaphone for them. And but if
Right.
you don't listen to those people, then what comes out of the megaphone is not really what is needed.
You just summarized it beautifully.
Well,
At the end,
I'm a man of few words.
yes,
not
you
really.
know, measure twice, cut once, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Big time.
Yeah, I don't want to have to call you up for more wood.
Actually, that was a good thing. Hold on.
Yeah,
I go back to my sales job.
Chop. So yeah.
But what's really important, I think, this job, back to your original question, the most fundamental thing we can do is listen. I think that's 90% of it, literally 90% of it. Because if we stop talking and listen more, we're going to be much better representatives.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, you are more of a unifier than a divider.
Right,
You know,
right.
I've never heard you talk poorly about anybody else.
Right.
You're smart enough to, unlike myself, sometimes to keep your mouth shut if you disagree with something. But you know, that's and that's like I said, you seem like you know, an ideal senator. You know, that listens to the people. You go out and you work. You've been working since June.
Oh, yeah.
Not taking this for
Not a
granted
bit,
that you're
not a
going
bit.
to be in there. And we do see some folks that coast. I think they work really, really hard, and then when they get elected,
Right.
it's like, okay,
Right.
and it's hard campaigning,
Right.
but you've got to save a little left in the tank,
Right.
to get
Right.
that done.
Right.
And I know that you measure that and you pace yourself and you get that done. So one of the question that I would have is, what's probably your when you're out talking, what's your biggest concern with people? And then I'll share mine with you, what I find. And I think this will be a stark difference
Yeah.
between our districts.
Yeah, probably will be. So I would think in a district like mine that you get into an environment like this, that they have strong opinions about the president or any particular office. I mean, pick a point in history. Maybe they have strong opinions about the governor, or maybe they have strong opinions about a United States senator or a congressman. I remember back in the days of Dan Burton, they had strong opinions about that. So just anywhere in history. I'd say the most important thing or challenge is you got to get them away from that and focus on the office that you're representing. So in this case, it's separating the national from the state. Again, so many people just want to kind of dump everybody into one basket, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Because of the national.
One size fits all.
Exactly. Furthest from the truth. It's all about the state versus the national. We're at the state.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I try to tell people. I said, when I look out my window, I can't see the president.
Right.
I can't even see your house, but I
Yeah.
can see my neighborhood.
Yeah,
And that's why I wanted
right.
to serve in my neighborhood.
Right.
And that's why we moved to Mars Hill and we're doing what we're doing there. Now, my big issue is drug houses. I mean, we have a big problem with that. I mean, I go out knocking on doors and almost everybody can point to a house that they may not be dealing large quantities, but that drug culture's there.
Right.
And it's very interesting to see how the drug culture is able to just sort of blend in to our, to our working class
Right.
group. And it's almost like a dance.
Right.
They know where not to go, and they know where not to
Right.
go.
Right.
But that's one of my major concerns that I didn't have really. It wasn't one of my number one priorities, but it was in my top 3 or 4. But it's one that, after talking to the people, that it's a major concern. I mean, it is a major concern with this
Right.
thing, and it's not an easy thing to solve.
No,
And
it's not.
we know folks that have been trying to
Right.
solve it forever. And then homelessness
Right.
and those type of things.
Right,
There's just
right.
all those things.
Right.
But I find that we need folks that are going to get in there and work.
Right.
You're one
Right.
of those guys.
Right.
You're one of those
Right.
guys that gets in there and works, and you're going to work with people, and we're
Right.
going to come up
Right.
with a decent solution.
Right.
What do you see coming up? We got redistricting. We got some other things. What do you think might be one of the big topics
so I think
coming up?
budget. I think the budget, it's going to be the budget year coming up, and obviously the challenges and the jobs and economy,
Yep.
jobs and economy. And obviously part of our biggest job is to balance the budget, which we will do. Fortunately, I'd like to knock on wood, sell you some more wood, by the way, John, but
Yeah, 2x4,
it's
2x10.
aluminum right
Aluminum,
here.
yeah,
That's right. So it's close. This is close enough, right? So at any rate, the budget for the state of Indiana, I think, will be not as steep as a climb as it will in other states, because we're going to fare better than most other states, I think, in the COVID crisis. I really do. A, we're Hoosiers. B, because the manufacturing is starting to come back stronger, which is a good thing, right? So that's good. We just got to get the economy open just as soon as we can, completely open as soon as we can. But I think pursuant to that, jobs, because we have some sectors that have been hit harder than others.
Oh, yeah.
Travel,
Hotel,
leisure,
and
entertainment, hotel.
I compare this to my 2008
Yes.
in the building.
Been there and done
too?
that. Yep,
Yeah,
been there and done
and
that
it
in the
was,
building business. Yep.
There was others that were
Right.
doing just fine, and I'm
Right.
like drowning.
Right.
So
Right.
we understand this, and
Right.
it takes a while to get it straightened out. But as you say, opening up and getting, I don't like to use the word back to normal, but it's just one of those things where we have to be able to move on through this process, and it's just been very interesting to see that. Oh, I got a question for you.
Yes.
What about the special session? This is my one put you on the spot about. What do you
Sure.
think about the special session? Do you think the governor should have called a special session for this?
You know,
COVID?
that's a good question. I mean, it's up to the governor.
That's a good question.
It's a great question. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. So I'm not going to answer it only because I'm not the governor, and it would be up to him to call it. So there's really, I can't say too much, right? Now, on one hand, there was a good idea to call it, right, to have some sort of finality. Not finality, but to have more because of the executive orders, right? I think you'll see a bill next year that will have widespread bipartisan support. And I've seen it in my district that both Republicans and Democrats, independents have all come together and said, you know, maybe what we need now is you can't have an executive order pass so many days without calling the legislature in. But I would also put as a caveat to that, you need to have sort of a structured agenda, because that's the downside of calling a special session. If you called a special session, then everything's on the table, and there's people that wanted to politicize everything. And then before you know it, instead of going in for maybe 1 or 2 action items that you needed to get done, you'll have 15 and you'll be in there for 6, 7 weeks.
Everybody's got some in their back pocket they want to get.
Everybody, we'll be in for 6 or 7 weeks, and that's a waste of taxpayer money, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's up to the governor. I don't really have an opinion on that right now. But going forward, I think you'll see legislation to try to address that next year.
Yeah, well, that's, see, folks, this guy knows what he's talking about, right? So, but John, I appreciate this.
Thank you, John.
And I appreciate you taking some
you.
time to come out here. We are in the Starbucks outside seating up here at 71st and Binford. And I did the Northview Church right down the road here. So
good.
we did the masonry on that. So used to be a builder, sold me wood, but I don't know. I like laying bricks. You know, it's
That's
fun.
right.
But we're still doing some building. So
awesome.
But I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck to you. Good luck to you.
Hey, good luck to you.
Thank you.
See how we get along. We get along with everybody, right? All right. Well, hey, that's going to be a wrap for this edition of Do Something Indie. And if you're in John's district, if you can figure out where that is, make sure you vote for him, because I'm telling you, this guy's solid. Thanks. Tune in next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Well, I really enjoyed that conversation with John, and I was thinking back. He sold me my first lumber package in 1992 for one of the first houses I built. Not only am I a bricklayer, but I'm a builder and developer and all those things. As you notice, I have a little wardrobe change here. So in between the introduction tonight and now, Lisa came home with the box of shirts that Wendy Jenkins at Jenkins Corner doctored up for us, because it had this back here was on there, the Schmitz House 97, because I'm running for District 97. But then it's also got this fancy logo right here. So these are our little soccer shirts. I got about 88 of these things. And I would love to give you one so you could wear it in my district, so people could come out and say, who's this Schmitz guy? We got to get to know him. But we're going to do some political series here. And I was sort of trying to figure out if I should do politics on here. And really, politics is doing something. And John is working on the north side of Indy, and he has done, I think, a very good job, and he's running for re-election. So I'm going to highlight some of the folks that I think are, doing something in Indy. And if you're a candidate out there and you want to come on my show, like I had somebody tonight ask me, that's a pretty high up candidate that wants to come on, ask me to come on the show. I didn't have to ask them. So I was excited about that. So I think our show's catching on a little bit. And I just really love to talk to people and meet new people and see what they're about. So that's going to do it for our show tonight, and hopefully you'll tune in next Wednesday. We'll have another blockbuster of a show. So let's go ahead and close it on out here. See you next Wednesday. Share it with your friends. Tell your friends. Vote for Schmitz. Oh, by the way, my wife's running too for the school board, so she came up with this slogan, 2 Schmitz and a giggle. I'm sorry.